Happy Thursday, everyone. Welcome to Del Mar, where the turf meets the surface. We begin the official first week of racing. We had our opening weekend, Saturday and Sunday. Last week, Christina Blacker, Larry Colmus with you to set you up for a Thursday, and one to look forward to, Larry, with this Pick 6 carryover.
Yeah, how about the way the day ended on Sunday? There were two horses in the last race that would have carried over the pick six. They ran 1-2. They were both more than 30 to 1. So here we are with that carryover of $144,919, and that's going to make this Thursday card 10 times as exciting.
Did you have any takeaways from the first week in terms of racing on Saturday and Sunday? Any jockeys that stuck out to you? Any trainers that stuck out to you? Or maybe notes, pace handicapping that you're going to carry through to this week?
I think the one jockey that stood out was Umberto Rispoli. I mean, he was terrific as he always is, but he was exceptionally good on the turf. And he's one of those guys that gets mad when you say he's a turf rider because he does do well in the dirt, but he's really, really good on the turf. Juan Hernandez riding for Bob Baffert on the dirt was really good the first week. And on the other hand, Phil D'Amato, I think, only won one race, which is unusual for him. So I would expect him to have a big week this second week.
Yeah, it doesn't take long for those big barns and that momentum to turn as many horses as they enter. So we start today with a little added incentive for the Pick 6 players. As you saw from the graphic, $144,000 carried over into the sequence. It begins in race 3. We have an 8-race program today, and we're coming to you pretty early. Larry and I are going to start at noon Pacific here on the desk, but our first race post time is still 2 p.m. as you are used to. So that third race on the program, 3 o'clock Pacific, 6 o'clock Eastern, you have plenty of time if you want to handicap and take a look at this sequence. Larry, I know there's a horse in race 4 that you like, so that would be second leg of the sequence. So let's start with race number 4, maiden special weights, 1 mile distance. I want to go through a couple horses in here. We're going to start at the rail. A Bit Mischievous, the inside horse for Pete Miller, a Ridgeling that seemed to appreciate the move to the main track last out.
Yeah, ran last out at Los Alamitos, encountered a little bit of trouble on the far turn. Not a whole lot that I thought made a big difference, but dug in through the stretch, was actually passed a couple of times, and ended up finishing second in there. And I thought that was a good performance by A Bit Mischievous. So certainly one of the horses to watch out for off of that Los Alamitos race. You love the improvement from the turf race to the dirt race, and now the stretch out might help too.
There's a price horse in here that might be interesting, and just especially if you're looking at this Pick 6, and that's the 7 Battle Cruiser. I know they've had to take their time with him, but I think his last race at the route distance, albeit against slightly softer, should help him today.
Yeah, he's had the experience of the 2 turns already, and it was a really nice effort, the second place finish. But it was against restricted company. This is a little bit of a tougher group than he'll be facing today. How about that workout on the 20th of July? The fastest of 120 horses went a half mile in 45 and 1. So I guess John Sadler getting him ready to show some early speed today.
The track was fast that morning. I've seen quite a few quick times from that day. That was opening day, Saturday. So certainly best of 120. Battle Cruiser sitting on some speed for the effort this afternoon. Visceral is another horse to look at. My racehorse, Edge Racing, in partnership with this Son of Violence. He's only run once so far, but what are you expecting from him today?
Yeah, he's the one that I'm looking at. He had some traffic problems here in the debut at Santa Anita on the 27th. You see there's no running room. That's him in the red colors there, having to lose ground and steady. He ends up finishing 4th in there. Diego Herrera kind of easing up on him late in the race because it was over. He wasn't going to be competitive in there. Gets the stretch out in distance, gets the blinkers off today, which is a great angle for Mark Glatt. The other great angle for Mark Glatt is just second-time starters in general. So I'm expecting a big performance by Visceral today. In fact, I'm going to single that horse in my Pick 6.
Really?
Yes.
All right. So a single in race 4 from Larry. You can take that as your advice if you're playing the sequence that way, or if you need some other coverage. We showed you the other backtracks from those horses that surround him. Visceral 5-2 on the morning line. Diego Herrera or Mark Glatt, who was one of the trainers that got started well. 3 wins the first weekend. I think Bob Baffert with 3 wins. Doug O'Neill with 3 wins as well. So we'll see if he carries that momentum into this next week. The feature today comes a little bit later on the program, and it's one of those races that some of the old handicappers just always love this one. Is it Cougar the Second or Cougar
the Second?
Two?
I believe Cougar the Second.
I feel like we go
they
through
used
this
to say
every
that,
year, and I never remember.
Yeah, they in the old days when a horse was bred out of the country, and he had a same name as a horse of the U.S., they used the second rather than now they just use what country they were bred and they would have the same name. But Cougar the Second is what they called him, and he was obviously a very talented horse, and he's got a race named after him that is unique at a mile and a half on the main track. Got to be the only one of the meet, I would think.
Yeah, so these marathon runners in race number 7 will take center stage today. It is a grade 3 event, and we have a few backtracks to show you with regard to this group as well. Let's start with Reincarnate. 9 to 5 on the morning line. Juan Hernandez for Bob Baffert. He was second in the Gold Cup, last out, keep stop class competition. He hasn't tried this distance, but he's been the mile and a quarter several times.
Yeah, and the fact that I think the key words that you said there were kept good company, and he's kept the best company I think of any horse in this race. So off of that, I expect him to be the co-favorite in here for sure. Either the favorite or the second choice in this race. But I noticed a quote from Bob Baffert saying basically this was his way of getting him ready for the Pacific Classic. So is he going to be completely ready for this race? I guess we'll find out.
The horse that I don't know what to do with is Salesman, just to his outside the 4. Kazushi Kimura rides for Richard Mandela. Now, I know he has a race in him that would be capable of winning the race today. You're looking at it right here from Thoroughbred Aftercare over Breeders' Cup weekend. But then he comes back with that clunker in the big cap. What do we do with Salesman?
Yeah, so that's the other favorite in here, and I'm gonna pick him. Okay. Richard Mandela, I was reading a quote from him, and he was referring to marathon distances, and he said that's what he does. And he is by Dubawi. He's got that breeding to go a long way, and that performance was so much different from any other race he's run that now coming back at a mile and a half, I could see him doing something similar. It's going to be a tougher group. Reincarnate's better, I think, than the horses he beat that day, but I think he can do it today.
I think he's an interesting horse also just in his form overall, because it looks like Richard Mandela took his time kind of getting to know him. He didn't have the horse for all that long. He kept him on the turf in the first 2 starts stateside. That's what he was doing overseas, but he's obviously much better on the dirt.
Yeah, he obviously is, and that performance that we saw just now is what they're hoping to see again. And I'm going to use both of those horses, Reincarnate and Salesman, in the pick 6, and those will be the only 2 that I'm going to have.
Oh, just those 2. Okay, let's talk about Calm C from the rail, because I think when you look at Calm C and you look at many of the others, they might be in good form, but they haven't kept the top class as some of the 2 horses we've just touched on. Calm C is in good form. He does have speed, but this is a class test for him today.
It's a class test, and it's a dirt test. He's been running solely on turf. He's only had 1 race on dirt in his entire career, and he was out of the money in there. Can he win? Sure, I guess it's possible. He's in great form for George Papadromo, but I'm just going to go a different direction just because I think he's been running against a step below the competition he's facing today, and dirt being a huge question.
What about Dual Threat? The dirt, not as much of a question for him. He's been on the main track in many of his races. He exits a win, but is he up to the task of taking on some of these others?
His last race was pretty good. The one that he won by a neck back in May at Santa Anita. He's had some time off since then. But again, his numbers are a little bit slower than the competition, and his class is a little bit lower than the competition he's facing today. I think he's going to have to step it up a little bit.
One more look there at Dual Threat. The other horse that I think fits the bill as well is Midnight Mammoth. Midnight Loot out of a Vindication mare, though. You can understand why they want to try this distance with him.
Yeah, if I was to go 3 deep, this would be the third one for sure. We're looking at the effort here. His victory at Los Alamitos, I believe, on the 4th of July, winning by a little bit more than a length is the 4-5 favorite. Again, that was a race much easier class-wise than the competition he's facing today, but his form is good. He's got the dirt form, and his numbers are right up there in his recent races. So I would, if I was going 3 deep, he'd be number 3.
How would you characterize this pick 6 overall as far as degree of difficulty? If I said, 1 out of 10, 10 being the most difficult, 1 being it's hittable, where would you place this one?
If I'm right, I'd say difficult. 10, it's
the toughest. Yeah.
I'd say about a 3 if I'm right, because I've got a kind of a ticket I put together is $24, a small ticket, and I'm anticipating it to be a little bit on the chalky side, but
there's those days,
you
right, when
wrong.
you think it's going
to
be chalky.
I know this. We got this. No, wrong. So.
What about the pool? 144,000 carried in. I mean, can we get to 750? Can we get to $1 million?
I would hope so. So let's see if we can have a big pick six pool and do well.
Start early. We're going to be promoting this all afternoon here. $144,000 carryover in the pick six today here at Del Mar. It starts in race number 3, and that goes at 3 o'clock Pacific. So we're going to step aside right now, Larry and I. Let us know if you have any selections. Let us know on Twitter, on X, however you like to communicate with us. Stay in the conversation today, and good luck if you're playing. We'll see you right back here on the desk at noon Pacific